Now, before I begin the lecture, I should offer Mangalajam. Om Jnanati Nirandhasya Jnanam Jana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Instead of giving a regular Bhagavatam class today, with permission of the leading devotees here, I'm going to give a general lecture on progressive concepts of theism, is the title. Theism, so I'm going to talk about progressive levels of theism. Theism means belief in God. There's a similar word, theology, the study of theism, or the study of the nature of God. Theism is a phenomena of the material world. There's no theism in the spiritual world. Are you surprised at that statement? Theism, it means belief in God. But there's no theism in the spiritual world. Because in the spiritual world, the theism is marked, its presence is marked in this world by the contrast with atheism. There's no atheism in the spiritual world, and therefore there's no need for theism. Simply, everyone is there with the Supreme Lord in his different forms, Vishnu, Krishna. Just like there's no term in this material world for one who believes in air, or one who doesn't believe in air. Have you ever heard of, what would that be called? Airism, Howism. We don't find people debating. Yes, there is air. No, there isn't air. It's an accepted fact. So for this reason, in the spiritual world, there's no theism. It's only in this material world. Because just like everyone believes in air, because it's an accepted fact in the material world, so in the spiritual world it's accepted that there is the Supreme Lord. It's not up for question. So theism is present in this world. Theism distinguishes the theists from the atheists. There are many different levels of concepts of God among theists. And actually even atheists have a concept of God, because you can't disbelieve in something unless you have at least some concept of it. The atheists believe in God where they've heard the idea of God as some supreme being, and they deny the existence. That means at least they have some concept of God, but they reject that such a concept corresponds with reality. So even atheists have a concept of God. So in this world there are various levels of theists. Basically, those who believe in God, they expect God to maintain them and protect them. And there's also some concept that we should love God and God loves us. That we'll find in every level of theism. Even we can include in theism demigod worship, or even, Prabhupada said even the aborigines in the jungle, if they see some big mountain, they may worship that, thinking that this is God. So Prabhupada notes this as a very crude, fundamentary level of theism, that they recognize some entity that is superior to themselves, that is axiomatically superior, fundamentally superior, in a different, dimensionally superior, that they cannot approach to the level of that being, and therefore their relationship with that supreme being, even if conceived of as a mountain, is that simply we have to bow down and worship that superior being. So even demigod worship, or even spirit worship, that in one sense that can be considered a very crude, primary level of theism. At least there is an acceptance of some power superior to me that I'm subordinate to and that I have to kowtow to in order to get the benedictions of. Einstein said, I'm a theist in one sense only. I can't exactly remember the words, but he said, inasmuch as I recognize that there is a superior force within the universe, in that sense and in that sense only, he said, I am a theist. So even scientists who deny the existence of God, if they subscribe to the idea of a superior energy, then even they could be considered theists of some sort. So generally, theists, if we can classify, there are, basically in this world, there are Christians, Hindus, Jews, Muslims, Parsis, Sikhs, Jains, Buddhists. These are the various prominent religious groups within the world. And all of them subscribe to God except Buddhists and Jains, who philosophically they don't subscribe to God, but practically we see in their day-to-day religious life, the Jains worship Mahavir and the Buddhists worship Buddha. And most Buddhists you'll find that they practically accept Buddha in the same way as we accept, or in the same way as we accept God as a supreme person who gives benedictions, who we pray to, who blesses us, who protects us, who maintains us, who we have a relationship with Him as a superior being. Although theologically they would not accept this, but practically in the day-to-day life of the average Buddhist, they worship Buddha as God. So, the basic level of theism is to accept that there is a supreme being who protects us and who maintains us and who we pray to. He helps us. Is a good, superior person who is all-powerful within the universe, creates the universe. In most cases it's thought that God creates the universe. And who we can have an individual relationship with. Now, in most religious systems, most people are not theologians. Most people, they don't really think about what they're doing. They just have a crude sense that there's God there, and if I pray to Him, then He'll help me. That faith is there. And even in what we could call the world's great religions, great in the sense that many people call themselves their followers, even though they have theology, they have a scholarly system of understanding and who God is and what is our relationship with Him, although they may not even put it in such clear terms as that. Their theology is actually very poor, very much lacking. Because mostly they have a very vague idea of who God is. And when they think about it, when they consider it, they can't go beyond vagueness, and they don't want to go beyond vagueness. They think that, well, God is so great that we can't really know Him. And we have this strange dichotomy, which is very strong in Islam especially, that the followers of Islam, Muslims, they pray to Allah. In fact, that's one of the primary precepts of their religion, that they should pray 5 times a day. But at the same time, they vehemently deny that Allah is a person. It's a very, very strange concept, that how you can pray to a non-person. Of course, they may face a wall, but they're not supposed to be praying to the wall. You can't pray to a wall. You can't pray to the sky. Prayer is directed, it's a personal exchange. But they deny that Allah is a person. So mostly you'll find that followers of these different religious paths, they don't really think too much about it. Even in Christianity, in modern Christianity, it's mostly denied that God is a person. They say to love God, but then when it's said, well, then he must be a person. No, he can't be a person. But then how can you love a non-person? It's contradictory. Now, often, although they say to love God, actually there's no concept of who He is or how to love Him. Because if you don't accept that ultimately God is a person, then how can you love? And mostly they stress more fear of God. That if you don't do this, if you don't believe in Jesus, then you burn in hell forever. The all-merciful God, if you don't believe in Him, He will burn you forever. Because He's so merciful. So it's actually a very childish kind of theology. There's no real thought behind it. There cannot actually be love of God in such religious systems. Because unless we accept the personality of Godhead, then we are denying the personality of Godhead. Unless we specifically, categorically accept that the Supreme Lord is a person, then by one means or another we are denying that the Supreme Lord is a person. And then where is the question of love? People, they want to think that God is protecting me and maintaining me, but there's no endeavor to understand who am I and what is my relationship with God. Therefore people identify with the body, and they think that God's maintaining me and protecting me, that only refers to the body. And they have very little concept of life in heaven, as they call it, or beyond this world. And they think that, well, when I leave this, they don't think of leaving this body because they think I am the body. But they think that God will bless me and I will go to heaven and I'll go on enjoying in the same kind of way that I enjoy at the present time. Their idea, mostly they don't have any idea of what heavenly existence is, or existence after death. But they tend to think, oh, God will protect me and maintain me in the next life and I'll go on enjoying, but without the difficulties that are present in this world. For instance, I may not like my next door neighbor, so I may think that heaven is a bigger apartment than I've got now, with a bigger TV and no next door neighbors. Actually, mostly people don't think. Even the leaders of the Christian religion, they don't even think about it. This, I believe the name was Ronald Runcie. I think I quoted this here last time I was in Bangalore. One of the ex-archbishops of Canterbury, means the head of the Anglican Church, maybe the biggest Protestant church in the world, when he was asked, what do you want to do when you go to heaven? They presumed he was going to heaven. I doubt it. But they presumed he was going to heaven. He said, I'll spend the first 100 years glorifying God and the rest of eternity enjoying myself. They have no idea actually who God is, who I am, and what is our relationship of service. So actually, love of God develops on the platform where one's maintenance by Him and protection by Him is taken for granted, and one doesn't care so much. Mostly people are approaching God for maintenance. Look after me and protect me. Maintenance and protection. But love of God can begin when one simply doesn't pray to God for maintenance and protection, or one takes it for granted that Krishna is doing this. We find this within the the Sharanagati, 6 symptoms of surrender. 2 of them involve the understanding that Krishna only is protecting and Krishna only is maintaining. Rakshishyatiti vishvaso goptritve varanam tata. So the firm faith that Krishna is protecting me and maintaining me, that is part of the 2 of the 6 symptoms of surrender to Krishna. Now we'll find in the 6 symptoms of surrender to Krishna, what are they? Who can say? Anukulyasya sankalpa means that we should only act, we should make a firm vow only to act in a manner that is conducive for development of Krishna consciousness, or in a manner that is pleasing to Krishna. Then, pratikulyasya varjanam, whatever is an obstacle in advancement in Krishna consciousness, we should give it up. Rakshishyatiti vishvaso, we should have firm faith that Krishna is protecting me. Goptritve varanam tata, and that He alone is maintaining me. Therefore we don't go to different demigods, for instance, for maintenance and protection. Then, Atmanikshepa, that full surrender of mind, body and words. Karpanya, this feeling of utter humility. Shardavitha Sharanagati. These are the 6 symptoms of surrender. Now we don't find in these 6 symptoms that it's mentioned that one should love Krishna. Did you ever consider that? There are 6 symptoms of surrender. We are enjoined to surrender to the Supreme Lord. But in the 6 symptoms of surrender, we don't find one of them is that we should love Krishna. But these 6 put together, they are the platform on which love takes place. That's why Prabhupada explained that actually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings, they begin where Krishna's teachings in Bhagavad Gita leave off. Krishna's teachings in Bhagavad Gita, he teaches up to Sharanagati. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu begins with Prema. Begins with means that is his specific contribution. Pancham Purushartha. Beyond the Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha, which are the Sarvadhaman Parityaja. These are the Chatur Varga, the 4 principles of mundane religion, which are to be given up, which is quite an amazing thing that Krishna says to give these things up, because these constitute the basis of human civilization. These constitute the basis of religious life. Krishna says to give it up. Then what more? When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was inspiring Ramananda Rai to teach, supposedly teach Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sadhya Sadhana Tattva, the goal of life and how to attain it, Ramananda Rai went through so many different processes and came to the point Sarvadhaman Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. At which point Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as he had previously done, said, Eho Bhajya, this is external. Age kaho, there is more than this. This is external. So how is that external? So Prabhupada explains in the purport of Bhakti that although giving up all varieties of religion and surrendering to Krishna is the very basis on which love of Krishna takes place, it does not in and of itself constitute love. So love will be, if one surrenders to Krishna, then love must be there. But love is more than acting in a manner favorably, rejecting all things unfavorable. All these, one who is actually in love with Krishna, then he's surpassed the stages of Sharanagati. He's no longer on the path of surrendering to Krishna. And surrender is an automatic component of his personality. Love. Love, the saying, love is blind. So we find the topmost devotees of Krishna, they may not be able to philosophically expound what are the different symptoms of love of Krishna, but they're fully possessed of them. And particularly, Prabhupada used to give the example of the gopis of Vrindavan. They were not Vedanta scholars, although they later came in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela and were Vedanta scholars. But they demonstrated simply to love Krishna without any expectation of personal gain. So that love of Krishna, that pure love of Krishna, even we'll find in the analysis in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that even the love of Krishna which is found in Vaikuntha, of the liberated souls in Vaikuntha, who are always glorifying the Lord, but according to the Golokvasis, the love of the Vaikuntha-vasis, which is completely pure from the platform of this material world, but that is described as Vikta Bhakti. That means which is crippled by the concept of understanding the Supreme Lord as the supremely great person. So we can just imagine how great is that's actually not to, even though we find in some of the writings of the Gauriya Acharyas, they actually condemn the concept of love of God of the Vaikuntha-vasis. And even Raghunath Das Goswami talks about falling down to Vaikuntha. We talk about falling down from Vaikuntha, but he talks about falling down to Vaikuntha. His concept is so high. But in Vaikuntha definitely there is love of Krishna, or love of in his Vishnu forms. So it's not that it's not bhakti, but in the words of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, that is Vitta Bhakti. I mean, there's consideration of his greatness. So that is not as spontaneous as the love of the residents of Vrindavan. So that's a very high platform. We are here sitting here with all our Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, and so many different material attachments. And by the grace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we have some idea of aiming at love of God. And at the same time, we've heard different people talk about God. We were just discussing a little bit about different religionists and how they consider God. How even though they may talk of love of God, they don't have a very clear concept of God. And even though they think that God is maintaining me and protecting me, they don't really relate to God. He seems to be a very distant person. God is someone who does something for you from outside. He's an outside agency. They may say, God acts in my life, but He's an external agency who does something for you, like helps you to cure your diseases, or awards you a pay rise. These are all gifts of God. These are things that God is supposed to do. So, from the mundane concept, the role of God as our protector and maintainer is very much stressed. He's the protector and maintainer, and we specifically think in terms of how He protects and maintains our material position. And love, there's some idea of love. But the idea of love of God from the material conception is something like that, well, I love my parents well. Why? Because they provide me food and clothing and education. So I love God for the same kind of reason, because He looks after me, He gives me money, He helps me to get ahead in my job. And so the concept of love, without actually understanding the Vaishnava concept, which is, again, that is very much developed or in superlative level in the Golok concept given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then there's always our love of God is going to be based on what He can do for me. What shall He do for me? How God will look after me. I remember in the singing at school the Psalms, a part of the Bible. The Lord is my shepherd, and He fills up my cup. He gives me bread. All the things He leads me out of the darkness. All the things He does for me. There's the famous saying of John F. Kennedy: "Don't think what you can do for your country. Don't think what your country can do for you. Think what you can do for your country." So that concept, if that's applied in theism, that becomes revolutionary. That is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's offering. That don't think what God can do for you. And people say, well, of course we have to think what God can do for me. Otherwise, why should we believe in God? God, that's His very function, because we can't do anything for God. He's superior. What can He do? What can we do for Him? There's nothing we can do for Him. But on the other hand, if we only think what He can do for us, then it's not how can there actually be love? If we're only taking, do this for me, do that for me, do this for me, do that for me, there's no reciprocation. Love means reciprocation. Love means I do something for you, you do something for me. If it's only one way, then it's not love. If only we think God should do something for me, then there's no love. So in this material world, the material conception of God, it's crippled by this idea that simply I'm here to enjoy in this world and God should help me. And the beginning of real love of God comes in Vaishnavism. Actually, love of God begins in Vaishnavism. Unless there's actually a clear concept of who God is and what is our relationship with Him, then you can't actually love. God is not a vending machine. You put some money in and click the button and something comes out. Not like that. He's a person. So we have to know Him. Otherwise, there's no question of love. So the Vaishnava conception, that begins with appreciating the Supreme Lord as Vishnu, Narayana, all opulent. He is the maintainer of the world. Through Him, Brahma creates and Shiva destroys. And His purpose is to maintain the world. Now, materialistic people, again, they think that, well, this world is here for us to enjoy, and God's purpose is to simply maintain it in as good a manner as we can, so that we can enjoy. And therefore people sometimes ask, well, if there's God, why is there suffering? If there's God, why are there earthquakes? If there's God, why are there wars? If there's God, why do children die in infancy? If there's God, why do newly married brides get in road accidents and become crippled? They think it's unfair. And when we tell them that, well, if we say it's karma, they think, oh, that's very cruel. Why are you ascribing such cruelty to God? They don't understand that we ourselves have made the problem. Purusha sukha dukkhanam bhutritve hetu ruchyate. That we create this situation ourselves in which we have to suffer. So Vishnu is the maintainer of the universe. And Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam Eko Vahanam Yoga Vitati Kama. He is the one eternal among many eternals. He is the one supreme conscious being among many conscious beings. And He fulfills the desires of all. So he does interact with the living beings according to their material desires. But his real purpose in maintaining the material world is to provide a platform on which the living beings can awaken to Krishna consciousness. And for this reason, the Supreme Lord comes to this world, and in various incarnations, avatars, actually this word incarnations is such a good word, he comes to this world not only in his Vishnu form. The best known forms of the Lord, they are Leela avatars, the forms that appear in this world. So they perform different pastimes. Narayana, in his original Chaturbhuj Murti, he is worshipped as very great, very powerful, as the Supreme Lord. But the Supreme Lord also comes in various Leela Murtis, pastime forms, to reciprocate with his devotees in various charming ways. He shows, I am a person. Sometimes people say, well, you see, why didn't Ram just kill Ravana? Why did he allow, if he's the Supreme Lord, why did he allow Sita to be kidnapped in the first place? So the answer is that, well, there may be many answers, because the topic of the Supreme Lord is a very great topic. But the Supreme Lord enacts these different activities so as to interact with his devotees, as if he were in need of their help. We're always demanding, give me this, give me that. But then where's the reciprocation? Without reciprocation there cannot be love. So the Supreme Lord sometimes comes, particularly in his pastime forms, to reciprocate with his devotees so that they can help him. He doesn't need any help, but he comes as if he's in need of help. And we'll find that in all the pastime forms of the Lord, he interacts as if he's an ordinary being. And later on he usually shows that he's not an ordinary being. We see that Matsya Avatar appeared to Satyabhata Muni. I'm just a little fish. There are so many big fish. Save me. What should I do? I was just going to offer some water, and there's a fish. And he spoke to me. Little fish. Protect me? Little fish. Oh, of course, I can protect a little fish. I'm a Kshatriya protecting so many people. I can protect a little fish. But the little fish got a little bigger. And he got quite a lot bigger. Until it became clear very soon that the little fish who Satyabhata Muni thought he was protecting, actually that fish was protecting Satyabhata Muni and everyone within the universe. And he protected him in the form of a fish by saving him from the inundation. So it started off that he thought, I'm protecting the fish, but very soon it became clear that this is Vishnu, who is the supreme protector of the devotees. So he enjoyed a little fun with his devotees. Lord Ramachandra appeared helpless, disconsolate, disheartened. He depended upon particularly his monkey friends to help him. Not making, he could have, if it had been of course we know that Ram isn't, but this is just a postulation. If, you see, Ravana, later on he found that Ram was not only as powerful as he, but more powerful. And Ravana, he took pleasure in showing off his power to other so-called great heroes of the universe. And he shamed and humiliated them by stealing their wives and daughters. Now, Ram was as powerful and more powerful than Ravana. Now, just for the sake of postulation, if Ram, of course we know he isn't, but if he had been of the same nature as Ravana, he could have stolen all of Ravana's harem, or he could have said, let's be friends, we'll all enjoy together. We'll go around stealing other people's wives. Or okay, you took Sita and I'll take Mandodari. He could have said. He could have joined forces with Ravana. But you see, Ravana was a very aristocratic person, Rishi Putra. But instead, Ram preferred to associate with monkeys, who were not considered very high class, even up to the present day. Although, of course, Hanuman and company, they were very special monkeys, but nevertheless, it was so embarrassing for Ravana and the Rakshasas that they were being attacked by monkeys. First of all, by men, but mostly not by men, only by 2 men, and the rest were monkeys. It was so embarrassing to them that they were attacked, and not only attacked, and they were defeated. So, Ram, he preferred to take the help of apparently less capable living beings, to show that actually, as far as the Supreme Lord is concerned, Dhane Jani Pandidye Krishnere Nahi Pai, Keval Bhakti Abhash Chaitanya Goswami, that he doesn't care for aristocracy, wealth, learning. He wants to see who loves him. So the Supreme Lord comes to this world in his various Vishnu forms to reciprocate with his devotees, to put an end to speculation. What is the nature of God? Those who think that God is something very vague, not to be defined, without a name. He comes and personally interacts, and particularly he performs these functions that he maintains and protects his devotees. What people are praying to God, please protect me, please maintain me. So Lord Vishnu, who is the maintainer, he comes and he specifically maintains and protects his devotees and has various loving exchanges with them also. So this is the Supreme Lord, Vishnu. Now, we find particularly in the personality of Lord Ram that his loving interaction with his devotees was able to be fostered more because he himself was in the mood that I'm not God. As much as the Lord takes the show or takes up the position that I'm not God, that much he can very intimately relate with his devotees. We find this when Krishna and Balaram, after killing Kamsa and Chanara and Mushtika and Kubalaya Pira and so many demons, that they again met with Vasudeva and Devaki. And Vasudeva and Devaki were hugging them and kissing them. And all of a sudden they thought, oh, they're God. And then their feelings of their loving feelings became diminished. This is a strange fact that love, we are enjoined to love God, but we can't very freely love Him as long as we understand that He's God. Because there's then a distance. He's so great, I'm so small, I'm fully dependent on Him. So loving feelings may be there. There are different... In love there are various positive emotions which collectively make up love. So there is gratefulness, that is one of them. Dependence is another. But if gratefulness and dependence are the main factors in a relationship, then it cannot be very intimate. Gratefulness and dependence are part of love. But if that is the main factor, then the love, it cannot develop very deeply. There'll always be a sense of awe and reverence. So Lord Ram, he performed his own Leela, his whole Leela, apparently in the mood that he didn't understand himself that he was God. And others who were with him mostly didn't also. The demigods, they did, but then his personal associates, means especially the monkeys, who they actually, the monkeys who are with Ram, we find more about them than about the Ayodhya-vasis. Who Lord Ram spent more time with the Ayodhya-vasis, but the subject matter of the Ramayana is mostly about the years of banishment. So they didn't understand that he was the Supreme Lord, but they loved him because he was such a great person and such an honorable person. Lord Ram is, Lord Vishnu, he is Purushottam, the Supreme Person above all other persons, and he exhibits his opulence. He is Aishvarya Purushottam. Then Lord Ram, he is Maryada Purushottam. He is the Supreme Lord, and he acts in a manner which is ideal for this material world. He performs his duties very nicely. He reciprocates very nicely with everyone in a very proper manner. And the pious people, pious theistic people, they are very pleased by the behavior of Lord Ram. And therefore, they like to do anything for him. They're so pleased by his character and his personality and his interactions. So, Lord Ram, he is respected by everyone, by his devotees. But that respect is engendered by his personality, by his reciprocation, not during the time of his pastimes, by actual knowledge that he is the Supreme Lord. Because that knowledge wasn't there. Even he himself didn't feel like that. But they respect him as a very proper king. He's the king. So that's, we find that the development of love of the Supreme Lord, that begins more when the Lord takes his pastime forms. In the form of Narayana, he's there, he's very wonderful, he has so many wonderful qualities, but he's very clearly God. He's to be worshipped as such, but there's some distance between the worshipper and the worship. One cannot come in a very, very intimate relationship with him. Whereas with Lord Ram, even though he's always respected, at the same time, those who are out on the battlefield with him, then it becomes a second by second or nanosecond by nanosecond affair. When you're fighting, just like for instance, if you're on the battlefield, you may have to quickly pass a bow. There's no question, right hand, left hand, or my dear sir, please accept it. There's no time for niceties. If you try to follow all the rules and rituals, you'll be dead in the meantime. Everything and you'll find, just like on the battlefield of Kurukshetra also, that in the heat of battle, all the different niceties, how to behave properly, all these things, they were often forgotten. It's a very intense situation. And there's the opportunity. There's the opportunity which we won't find generally in the various Vishnu form Leelas. That we find that the Lord is there to protect and maintain us, but we won't find an opportunity to sacrifice our lives for His sake. That Lord Ram offers. That you can sacrifice your life for my sake. Those who are fighting with Him. So it gives them a tremendous opportunity to fully give themselves to Lord Ram. And so many crores of monkeys were killed on the battlefield. Crores. These are the figures given. And then after the battle, then they all were resuscitated back to life. So these various pastime forms of the Lord, the Supreme Lord comes to show, to personally reciprocate. It's not just that the Lord is very far away. He comes among us and He personally protects us and maintains us. Particularly the Lord, He comes, Indrari Vyakalam Lokam Ridhiyanti Yuge Yuge. The Supreme Lord comes in every age when Indra and the Devatas are being harassed. He comes and He sets the universal order in place again. He personally comes and maintains His devotees and protects them from the demons. So these are the functions of the Supreme Lord. He personally comes and He shows in His Vishnu forms how He maintains and protects. And there's personal interaction. So the love of the Lord is awakened by seeing His beautiful form and how He personally comes and interacts with us and maintains us and protects us. Now, is it okay now? Actually, if you put it down like this, that's better. Hare Krishna. Now, Krishna, He is known as Leela Purushottama. He is the Supreme Lord, and other forms of the Lord, they also perform different pastimes. But Krishna, His pastimes are exceptionally wonderful. There are 4 particular features of Krishna which are not seen even in the other forms of the Lord. He's got something which God doesn't have. He's God not being God. When Krishna is baby Krishna catching the tails of the cows and being dragged through the mud, and Mother Yashoda running behind trying to catch Krishna. In Krishna, He's not God as such. He is God, but He's not acting as God. He is God, everything's going on by His energies. Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate natat samaschabhyati kascha vishyati parasya shakti vividhaiva shuyate swabhaviki jnana bala kriyacha. The Supreme Lord has no work to do. He's not obligated in any way. Everything goes on by His different potencies. He has His potencies of knowledge, action. They automatically, things are going on. Without His having to. He doesn't have 10, Krishna has 2 hands. He holds a flute. He doesn't have 10 hands with 10 different cell phones. What's going on in Brahmaloka? What's going on in Patalaloka? Okay, Indra, go down, sort out that crisis. Okay, just hold on a minute, I'm just dancing, I'll be coming soon. Not like that. Everything's going on by His potencies. Simply playing His flute. And sometimes catching the whole tail of the cows. Krishna does many things with His 2 hands. If He was only playing the flute, it would be more predictable. He's unpredictable. You never know what He's going to do next. So He's God, but He's so much God that you can't even recognize Him. He's practically transcended the position of God. God means the supreme controller, supreme maintainer, supreme protector. Krishna is all these things, but He's simply enjoying His pastimes. And those who are with Him, they don't think of Him as being God. Sometimes they may do, the residents of Vrindavan, sometimes they think, well, maybe Krishna's God, Yeah, maybe He is. Anyway, look, it's very late. He hasn't come back from the pasturing grounds yet. When He's coming back to Vrindavan village, Nandagram, coming with all the cows and cowboys, and every evening all the demigods will be there, Brahma with 4 heads and Indra with so many eyes, offering Him prayers, and all the cowherd boys, They're always joking with Krishna. Did you see that funny guy with 4 heads up with, ooh. And there's another guy with all these eyes and, ooh. They're joking with Krishna. Oh, you think you're some big guy, all these funny people come and offer you prayers. They know he's God, but at the same time they don't, he's God, oh, what a joke. They don't take it very seriously that he's God. It's difficult for us to understand it. We're not in Golok consciousness. So Krishna has 4 symptoms that make him superlatively even more than God. God means, when we say God, we think of the supreme controller, supreme maintainer, supreme this, supreme that, supreme everything. But Krishna has 4 items of his personality which are supreme. If we say to people, well, what do you think God? Well, he's very great, he owns everything, he controls everything. But our God, he is the supreme what? Flute player. Really? That's one of his special qualities. Venu Madhuri. He's so much God that he's controlling, maintaining, destroying. Yes. And all the demigods are praying to him. Yes. But actually he's playing his flute. We'll find that when the gopis were searching for Krishna, that he was hiding, and they found him, and what should I do? Okay, another 2 hands. And so, it's Narayana. Narayana, Om Namo Narayanaya. Oh Lord Narayana, you are very great. We bow down to you. Do you know where Krishna is? You know everything, you should know. And then they saw the Supreme Lord. But they wanted to find that young boy with a flute. They were not theists. They were not looking, where's God who can protect and maintain our material interests? They'd already given up their so-called material interests. Their so-called material life was finished. They'd already left their homes, their husbands, their sons, their brothers, everything, being attracted by the flute of Krishna. So this is that Krishna, his wonderful flute playing, attracts all the world. This is inconceivable. What is a flute? It's a piece made from bamboo with a few holes in it. And this is beyond theism. That the Gauriya Vaishnavas, they're saying that God, alright, Krishna's God. But if you really want to know what's so great about him, he has a flute. Flute. It's something made from wood. It's a very ordinary thing. But how to understand this? Not by logic. Simply, Krishna is like that. Krishna has personal characteristics which transcend our conception of who God is or what we should think he should be like. So what do we have? Venu Madhuri. Then what else? Roop Madhuri. His form is so enchanting. The people who say that we believe in God but we don't believe he has any personality or form, they're really missing out. No, they become upset when they say, what is this? You're worshipping the form of the Lord. But that very form is all attractive. When we say Krishna is all attractive, how is he all attractive? Well, we say, Aishvaryasya Samagrasya Virasya Yashashasya Jnana Vairagya Yosha Shamnam Bhagi Itingam. The Supreme Lord is all attractive because he possesses all wealth, all power, Virasya, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge and renunciation. But those who are on the level of love of God, surpassing love of God, those who are on the platform of love of Krishna, They don't love him because he's God. They love him because he's Krishna. God is his position. It's just like, you see, of course the Prime Minister of this country is not married, but let's take the Prime Minister of Britain, Tony Blair, and his wife's name is Cheryl, is it? Something like, is it? Cheryl. Funny name. Sorry, I didn't mind to insult her, but anyway, it's not a very common name. So I don't know if she loves him anyway, because who loves anyone in the modern world? But, no, actually, you see, with all this women's liberation and everything, she probably wouldn't want to say in public, I love my husband. Really? Because they think it's kind of belittling and demeaning. You know, I'm equal with my husband. So they won't say, I love him. They may not, I don't know, I don't study, I haven't studied the life, I'm just giving it as an example. But anyway, she is supposed to love him, or theoretically we can say she might love him, not because he's the Prime Minister, but because I married him some years ago and he's my husband. And I love him for whatever, for his personality. You know, he's a wonderful guy. He bombs people to pieces and sends the British youth off to get killed in Iraq. And he's a great guy. I really love him. So, Cheryl, maybe it's pronounced. I don't know. Is it? Cheryl, is it? Okay. So, anyway, it's just an example. She loves him not for his position, but for his personality. Of course, in this material world, love is misplaced, because the personality of everyone in this material world is misplaced. Everyone's a misplaced personality because they didn't place their love at the lotus feet of Krishna. So love in this material world is just a fraud. It's an imitation of love that is meant for Krishna. So anyway, the residents of Vrindavan, they don't love him because he's God. And in fact, they think that his being God, it's a bit of a disturbance or maybe a bit of a joke. Like the cowherd boys, they're joking at Krishna. So they don't love him because he's very powerful or very rich or very famous or very knowledgeable or very renounced, but they especially love him for his dealings with them and for this one quality among the six, Shriya, beauty. They love him. Now sometimes it's said that women, some beautiful woman may think that, well, I want a man who loves me not just because of my looks. So it's not just because of Krishna's looks. It's not a mundane, lusty feeling, but definitely the very form of Krishna is so beautiful that it inspires loving feelings for Krishna. Krishna's form is Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Yang Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam. His very form is inconceivably and wonderfully beautiful, and it inspires love of God. It inspires love for him, whether he's God or not. He is God, but he's more than God. So that form inspires love. Now that is very different from the beautiful form of this material world, which inspires lust. That's why we see that some beautiful film star or model may say, I want a man who loves me not just for my looks but for my personality. Because the form, the material form, that inspires lusty feelings. And we find in India now that people from very rich families, the young boys and girls, they're spending so much money to go to beauty parlors, and they have these suction things, they suck all the fat out of your body, and so many things. They want to put the nose straight, not like mine, and then the teeth in order, so that there's no teeth sticking out and there should be no gum. But you can only do so much. I mean, if you, by your karma you get a certain kind of body, and you can't just by having some plastic surgery, you can't turn every woman into Aishwarya Rai. It's not possible. So they can try, but more or less you got what you got. So they're very anxious to make their body good looking because that's attractive. But those who have got an attractive form, they say, well, all these people are coming around me, but they're just attracted by my looks. What about me? They should love me also. Or very rich people, we find that people are coming around them, but they're coming around them because they want to extract something from them. I want something from you for my sense gratification. But the form of Krishna, that inspires pure attraction. That the devotees, they're very much attracted to the beautiful form of Krishna. But that attraction to Krishna, that doesn't inspire mundane lust. Rather, one who becomes attracted to the form of Krishna, he becomes freed from mundane lust by developing pure love of Krishna. So this is a very wonderful feature of Vaishnavism. Actually, I was reading a book by one Muslim lady who she was recounting how, from Hyderabad, how she became a liberated woman, because this is one topic which I've become very interested in, how this modern societal roles, gender roles, how it's spoiling society. How this so-called liberation of women means that they'll never be liberated, and no one will ever be liberated from material existence. By their so-called liberation into material existence, that they cease to follow the Vedic regulations which give us actual liberation from material life. That the so-called liberation of women, it's a springboard on which both men and women become more and more entangled in the material world by increasing their lust. Whereas the so-called non-liberate or protection of women, which is the Vedic standard, that protects both men and women from increasing lust and enables them to become actually liberated from birth and death. So I'm quite interested in this topic because it's a very serious point of social organization, which mostly it seems our devotees, they haven't understood very much, because they think, well, we'll just go along with modern life and chant Hare Krishna. But if you go along with modern life, then you'll find it's a flow which is going very quickly to hell. So if you go with the flow, you'll end up in the drain. That's where the flow is going. It's the gutter. Modern life it's flowing in the gutter. You can see liberated women means simply they well, into use Prabhupada's language, prostitutes and so on. Just they make themselves very freely available. So anyway, I was reading a book by this liberated lady, or not lady, lady's not the right term. They don't even like to be called ladies. They think that's above their dignity. So they don't want to have any dignity. So she was saying, recalling how her childhood, how she was brought up in a very protected climate, and she escaped from that to become a liberated woman. So one of the things she was saying was that I used to see the Hindus worshipping their gods, and I used to think how nice it would be if I could do that. You see, in our religion we're not allowed to do that. Both the men and the women, they can keep forms, and they can worship, and they can dress, and they can pray, and they can offer food, and offer lights, and we can't do that. So I thought it would be much nicer if I could worship a form of the Lord. So actually this is a natural tendency to worship the form of the Lord. This we have in the Vedic culture, which is not available in other religious systems. They say, well, you believe in God, you love God, you worship God, but what does their worship consist of? In Vaishnavism particularly, we stress very much on worship of the form of the Lord. So that enables us to develop our love of God. When we come before Jagannath and we understand that Pratima Nahitumi Sakshat Brajendra Nandan, that this is not simply a statue, this is the Supreme Lord. We can personally interact with Him, offer Him clothing, offer Him food, offer Him a big temple, sing for Him. It's not that we simply go to some church and sing some hymns and God is somewhere. He's here to personally hear our prayers to Him. So the form of the Lord, especially the form of Krishna, even more than that of Narayana. How many great poets, Vaishnava poets, have composed how many hymns in praise of the beauty of the Supreme Lord? Narayana, Rama. But the form of Krishna is even more wonderfully enchanting than that of Narayana. Even Narayana is attracted to the form of Krishna. Why does he come as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Because sometimes he sees Krishna in Dwaraka, sees his form, the pillars, there's so much shining and polishing that he sees his own reflection and thinks, oh, I'm so beautiful. I wish I could be in someone else so I could appreciate my own beauty. Therefore he comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna's form is so attractive that it attracts even he himself. So, Krishna has Venu Madhuri, Rupa Madhuri, then Leela Madhuri. All of the Supreme Lord's pastimes are very wonderful. He does many wonderful things. He's recounting Matsya Avatar. We find that who is the very embodiment of surrender? We're saying that surrender is the platform on which love begins. So the very embodiment of surrender is Bali Maharaj. He's the symbol of surrender. And when he surrenders to the Supreme Lord immediately cheats him and treats him very badly, apparently. And this is the sign of Bali Maharaj's surrender, that he didn't become disturbed or think that I made a great mistake. Okay, come back all my soldiers. Let's, there's the Vaman Dev, he's cheated me. Okay, call all the soldiers. Let's have another fight. We fought one time. We won the heavenly planets. Now I got cheated by Vamana Dev. So come on, all you soldiers. We did it once. We'll do it again. No, he accepts. Whatever you want. You cheated me, very nice. You humiliated me, very nice. Who will appreciate? If we go and you see the Christians are going, you become a Christian and we'll give you rice and dal and education and house to live in and so many things. And we'll come and say that, well, you never know. If you worship Krishna, quite likely, quite likely he may take everything away from you. Who is going to take this up? But then, having taken everything away from Bali Maharaj, what did Vaman Dev do? He gave himself to Bali Maharaj. That Bali Maharaj, he gave himself, that Vamana Dev was chastising. You see, you think I'm a cheater. You are a cheater, you Bali Maharaj, because you promised to give me 3 steps of land. But I covered the whole lower section of the universe with 1 step, and the upper section of the universe, which you think you are the proprietor of, you fool. I'm actually the proprietor in the first place. I covered everything with 2 steps, and you such a big ahankari, you think you have so much land to give me, and you can't even give me 3 steps of land. I only asked for 3 steps of land. You don't even possess 3 steps of land, because I covered everything with 2 steps. What a cheater you are! You promised to give me 3 steps of land, and you can't even give it to me. Then what are you going to do? I have 1 more step. What are you going to do? Put it here. I will become your property. I will become then I will become subservient to your lotus feet. Oh, really? All right. Then I took you. You have become. I promised to give you my property. The only property I have left is this body, you take that also. Oh, you're giving it, alright, I accept. Very good opportunity to fully surrender. And then the Supreme Lord said, well, I appreciate that, You gave everything, you gave yourself, you got humiliated. So I have decided that anyway, now I took the whole universe, so I'll give you part of it for the time being, which is better than the kingdom of Indra. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to become your doorkeeper. So Bali Maharaj gave himself to Vamandev, and Vamandev in reciprocation gave himself as the servant of Bali Maharaj. So you may think, well, what's the use of having a little dwarf as a doorkeeper? That's what Ravana thought. He came and said, hey, I heard this Bali's here, he's in charge of this Sutala Loka, I'm having fun wandering around the universe, harassing people and stealing their wives and doing all kinds of nasty things, which genuine Rakshasa should do. So I'm doing it. So he's striding in and he sees there's a doorman there. He's got a little tiny dwarf as a doorkeeper. He doesn't, hey, what is this joke, This little, he doesn't even look at him. But all of a sudden, Vamandev said, hey, wait a minute, I'm the doorkeeper. Just get out of the way. What do you mean get out? And then all of a sudden, Ravana finds himself on a tour of the universe. He's being kicked. And he's circulating his body. So, Ravana never reached as far as the court of Bali Maharaj, because Vamandev was protecting. So, Bali Maharaj shows that, Vamandev shows, his very beautiful pastimes, he reciprocates with his devotees. Those who surrender to him, he performs many wonderful pastimes with them. So like that, we have various pastimes with the Lord in various incarnations, how he protects and maintains his devotees, and how he enjoys different pastimes with them. And we find especially in Lord Rama, how he enjoys so many different pastimes, but with Krishna, we find that the pastimes of Krishna are especially wonderful because the devotees of Krishna are so much surrendered to him that they don't even think of surrendering. There's so much surrender, they don't discuss surrender, they don't think of surrender. Their lives are so much meant for him that the very concept of surrender has been left a long way behind. In such a thick relationship of love, that surrender is so much an integral factor that it's beyond it. They've already left it behind. It's not even something to be discussed. That the love has become so much an established principle that the basis of it, which is surrender, is already it's already there. It's not something to be discussed. That's why Mother Yashoda can chastise Krishna. No one goes to Mother Yashoda and says, well, actually you should perform activities which are favorable for developing bhakti, and chastising Krishna isn't one of them. You're not supposed to chastise him. He's God. But she can chastise him because she's gone past the platform of considering what is favorable for surrender, what is not favorable. There's no question in Mother Yashoda's mind that she must chastise him. If he does something wrong, she must chastise him. Mother Yashoda is so much in love for Krishna. Her love for Krishna is so... What do we think the love of Krishna is? We should always act in a way that's pleasing to Krishna, isn't it? Isn't love of Krishna, then you should always act in a way that's pleasing to Krishna? But her love for Krishna has gone beyond that. Her love for Krishna is such that to serve Krishna, she sometimes acts in a way which is not pleasing to him. He becomes upset with her. She's feeding him, very nice. I'm sucking my mother's breast. All of a sudden Yashoda puts him down and goes off to see the milk. That's not pleasing to Krishna. He becomes very upset. That why she put me down? I was enjoying the taste of the milk. But she's thinking, if I don't see that the milk is boiling over, it's only meant for Krishna. then all the milk will get spoiled. So let me take away 5 minutes to... Of course, they don't have gas or electricity in those days, so maybe she has to move the milk off the fire or take some of the wood out of the fire. She's only thinking how to please Krishna. But apparently it's not pleasing to Krishna. He becomes so upset that he goes and... Anyway, that's the whole Damodar Leela. So, what is pleasing? She's only acting for the pleasure of Krishna, but superficially may not seem to be pleasing to Krishna. Because she's so surrendered to Krishna, everything she does is pleasing, is only meant for the pleasure of Krishna. And Krishna has such an intimate relationship, Yashoda has such an intimate relationship, that he will do things which are deliberately meant to displease Mother Yashoda. Breaking the butter pot and distributing it to the monkeys, deliberately meant to displease the Supreme Lord. We should think He's very kind to us, He protects us, He maintains us. If we love Him, He'll act in such a way that is pleasing to us. But if we become so thickly in love with Krishna, He may deliberately act in a manner that is designed to displease us. Mother Yashoda, Krishna is deliberately acting. The love between Mother Yashoda and Krishna is so thick that He will deliberately act in a manner which is designed to displease her. Why? To get her attention. She's not tending to me. So now I'm going to break all this butter pot, and that will get her attention. Even if she's angry with me, she'll notice me. That you see, I'm here. Don't forget it. I'm your son. I want your attention. So everyone is praying. You see people go up to Tirupati. Now they have a very good system. You put this on your hand. If you go at the weekend, forget it. You have to come ahead of the weekend. Otherwise you won't even get a darshan. There's such a big rush. So you have to go. You have to make an effort. You have to stand in front of Him. You have to do something to pray to Him, to try and get His attention. But you see that Krishna, He wants to get the attention of His devotees when He thinks they're not paying enough attention to me. And even He'll do something very bad, apparently. Just to get, you see, you're not giving me enough attention. Then who's God here? That's what I'm saying. When He's in Vrindavan Lila, He's not actually God. God means someone you go to, you pray to, you try to get His attention, He does something for you. But here we find that Krishna is trying to get the attention of Mother Yashoda by means fair or foul. And He's trying to get her attention. He's hungry not just for He's sucking her breast, taking the milk. But why He's so upset? He can go and steal the butter and she can bring in milk, and anyway she'll come back in 5 minutes and feed him with her breast milk. He's not hungry, but He's hungry that I want your love. That you should come and be with me. Don't go away even for a second. I need your love. I'm demanding it. This is Leela Madhuri, which mixes with Prem Madhuri. Krishna's wonderful reciprocation with His devotees who are on a level of love of God which is so non-understandable to materialistic people that they think it is something like lust. They'll criticize the gopis. Why they are running away from their husbands. But what is the reciprocation of love? So this understanding of Krishna, practically it's understanding Krishna beyond the platform of love of God. When we say love of Krishna, it's beyond it's love of God. Yes, Krishna is God, but to love Krishna as Krishna means actual love, loving Him as the Supreme Personality, as this most loving and wonderful personality. And, well, He happens to be God also. Alright. That's a beginning. That's a very great beginning. Most people don't get that far. Most people don't get as far as Vaikuntha to understand the Supreme Lord. But love of Krishna, especially as taught by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, goes beyond loving Him for the sake of His greatness and loving Him just because He is so lovable. He is so wonderful. He is so beautiful. Everything about Him is so superlatively wonderful that those who are fully surrendered to Krishna, they can enter into a relationship which takes them far beyond simply surrendering for the sake of saving our souls. We shall surrender to Krishna and we shall go to Vaikuntha and we shall be the liberated associates in his association. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave a concept of love of God beyond what I can get, even spiritually what I can get. That simply one should love Krishna for the sake of loving him. Hare Krishna. That's why we chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. What is the aim of this chanting? What for? What shall we get? What shall we do? Why should we do anything? No one does anything in this world without thinking they'll get something from it. So what shall we get? We will get, from chanting Hare Krishna, we will get beyond the idea of thinking, what shall I get? That's where love begins. When we stop thinking what I can get, and when we find that this person is just so lovable that he naturally, love is the natural reciprocation with him. In this material world, we're looking for that. We're looking for that person. Who is that wonderful person I can find who I really love? And we find actually there is no one in this material world. We have husband-wife relationship, but it goes on with a recognition of the faults of each other. And anyway, we'll go on. And if we're Vaishnavas, then we'll chant Hare Krishna together. And if we're not, then we'll be good, pious husband and wife. This is an ideal relationship in the material world. And we'll go to Swarga together. But it's imperfect. Perfect relationship between husband and wife means that Krishna is perfectly placed in the center. Otherwise, intrinsically, there's no one in this material world who is lovable. Because everyone in this material world is simply running on the platform of Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. But Krishna is that person who we can, not that we can actually love, but as we become purified by chanting Hare Krishna, that automatically love for Krishna awakens because he is so lovable. Everything about Krishna awakens love for him. And love in this material world, it's simply an imitation or a fraudulent copy of love of Krishna. So chanting Hare Krishna, that cleanses the heart of all bad things and awakens love for he who is actually lovable. So love of God, beyond simply thinking he will maintain me, he will protect me, or I have to fear him, otherwise he will send me to hell. And even beyond love simply because he's great, but love because he is so very, very wonderful. This is the offering of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? Yeah. Do you have any other mic to pass around? During the time of Kirtan? During Kirtan.
It's alright to chant any other mantras like Swagatam Jagannath or Shri Radha Gopal, or once you stick on to the Hare Krishna Maha.
Is it alright to chant other mantras apart from Swagatam Jagannath or Shri Radha Gopal, or should we stick to the Hare Krishna mantra? Is it alright? Alright. 100% right. Well, how are we going to judge this? How should we judge the answer to this? What's the answer? How should we judge anything? How should we know anything in spiritual life? Through Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So we understand from Guru, Sadhu and Shastra that the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the mantra which is the by far the most recommended, and especially Prabhupada taught us to chant the Maha Mantra. He taught us not to introduce speculative chants. There are many Vaishnava songs and chants. Prabhupada recommended that we, among all the many, many thousands and maybe lakhs of different poems and songs that could be sung. He recommended that we sing particularly the songs of Narottam Das, Bhaktiraj Thakur, and Lochan Das. And he warned us not to make up different chants. Because if we, especially the Sahajiyas in Bengal have made up so many different chants. Different chants, they may seem to be good, like Nitai Gaur Radhe Sham Hare Krishna Hare Ram. What's wrong with that? It's only the names of God. But it's absolutely rejected by our acharyas because there's a consideration of rasa bhasa now. It's rejected. Now, I have a particular objection to singing Suswagatam Jagannath. One reason is because it comes from it's not sung by any acharya. Certainly not by our recent acharyas, Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And it certainly seems inappropriate to me that, just like for instance, if I go to your house and as soon as you call me to your house and when I enter I say welcome. As a matter of fact, I'm going to throw you out of this house and I'm going to become the owner. You are now the guest and I'm the owner. So it seems to be inappropriate in the temple of Jagannath to say to him, welcome, or actually the whole world is his temple. So we should be careful to stick to... I asked where this came from actually. Apparently it comes from some Hindi demigod worship cassette, apparently. So, in puja, when one takes the Lord from his altar, before bathing him, one will say Swagatam. But I don't see any in Kirtan that it's ever been chanted by any of our acharyas. Certainly not by Prabhupada, who warned against introducing all kinds of different things. So certainly if we stick with the Hare Krishna mantra, we'll be safe. Prabhupada was there are many things actually. He didn't like going on Jai Jai this, Jai Jai that, on and on. So there are many points. I've written an essay on this. If you like, I can give you the essay on what we should chant in Kirtan. There are many things which are chanted nowadays in ISKCON which weren't introduced by Prabhupada, and even some things which Prabhupada specifically said that he didn't like, which are quite commonly chanted. So anyway, it's got nothing to do with the class, but it seems like you had that question lined up. So anyway, Hare Krishna. Are there any other questions? Love should be unconditional and reciprocal. So where's the contradiction? If we unconditionally love Krishna, Krishna will unconditionally love us. Or actually Krishna sometimes he expresses his inability to repay. That way the devotees, they defeated Krishna. Unconditional. Isn't that a very high platform? Huh? Nothing. Just only whatever Krishna wants, we should do. At every moment. Can we aim at that platform? Do we think we can come to that platform? We should do, because that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give us. But we have to make a very serious endeavor. Without serious endeavor, there's no question that we can come to such an elevated platform. We have to be very much focused. Now you say, this Bangalore, this is one of the most progressive cities in India. Maybe they pride themselves as being the most progressive in terms of material advancement. So it's a very much business-oriented atmosphere. So, in your business profession, you have to be very much focused and oriented. Just like if you're a computer development engineer, just for instance, So you have to be very much focused on your task. You have to put your mind into it. Otherwise you can't keep up with the task. You can't perform the task properly. You won't be able to maintain your job. You'll be a loser. You'll be a failure. You have to really focus. Even you do your exercise in the morning. Why? So that you can keep your body fit to go on working as a software engineer. So your mind will be sharp. And everything you do, how you eat, how you sleep, it's all focused on how I can keep my mind sharp so I can put my mind into the task of developing this software. So much focus. So to be Krishna conscious, how much focus we need. We have to be very careful not to become hazy. The opposite of focused is hazy. If we think that there's anything else in life apart from becoming Krishna conscious, then we're not going to become Krishna conscious. We can, of course, perform, as householders, most of you, you'll have to perform activities which are at least apparently extraneous to Krishna conscious. But unless we can perform serious sadhana and seriously focus on Krishna consciousness, then we're going to forget Krishna. So at least in the time that we do have, when we're not working, we're not focused on that working, we should be very carefully focused on Krishna. Now, for instance, just to give an example, I don't know if anyone here is guilty of this. Guilty is a strong word, but I'm going to use it and it's not inappropriate. Guilty of watching TV. Nonsense things on TV. I don't know if anyone here is guilty. It's a crime against Krishna. Those who are supposed to be surrendered to Krishna, if they're watching nonsense things on TV, and pretty much everything that's on TV is nonsense. So, I don't know if anyone here is, but certainly in different parts of India and the world, I've seen that some initiated devotees, after taking their initiation vows, they're still addicted to these nonsense kinds of things, which is pratikul to bhakti. That means we're not surrendered. Instead of Chaito Darpana Marjanam, by chanting the holy names, to clean our hearts of Kam, Krodh, Lobh, we're inviting, please come into my heart. I'm switching on and watching and inviting, please, a flow of Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moha, Mada, Matsa. We're deliberately polluting our consciousness. So, that's one example, so we should be very careful. We have to be focused in Krishna consciousness, then we can attain to unconditional love. Otherwise we can't. It's not that you simply talk about praying for half an hour a week and then that's it. Praying, and this story of Krishna dancing with the gopis and that's it, half an hour, and I'm praying about that. No. Lord, it's sincere endeavor. Could you please tell us about the Jews community? Whom do they worship and what do they believe in? To tell you the truth, I'm not that much learned. They worship God who, well, it's very difficult to say. There are, in the Bible it's written as Yahweh, but you're not supposed to say it. You're not supposed to. They have a funny thing that you're not supposed to say the name of God, or that He doesn't have names actually. Anyway, more or less they believe in God, but it's a very vague concept of God. There's no clear understanding. That's why when we come with Krishna consciousness, they say, no, this is very bad. We believe in God. We don't believe in Krishna. So they have a sectarian understanding. We are part and parcel of Krishna, so is this. We are part and parcel of Krishna, so is this universe, I see this. So why not love everything and everybody? Because Krishna is in there. Why only specific forms of Krishna? Yes, love everything and everybody, but specifically when we love Krishna, then all other the love of everything and everyone else is subsumed in love of Krishna. But particularly the matter of focus, the focus of our love is Krishna. You see, if we just say we love everything equally, then there's no actual focus of that love. Love means there has to be some reciprocation. There has to be some interaction. There's a general sense of love, maybe there's a general sense of well-being or good feeling, sadbhavana. That's a general feeling. But actual love means reciprocation, which means dealings, interactions, personal exchange. So Krishna can love everything and everybody in the universe because he has the capability to interact with every living being. We are limited. We cannot interact with every living being. So we should interact with the supreme object of love, who is Krishna. And then automatically, by loving Krishna, who interacts with all other living beings, therefore our love can reach to all other living beings. But if we try to individually love every living being without focusing on Krishna, then we won't actually be able to love. We only have very limited capacity to love. How many people can we love? Well, I love my father, I love my mother, I love my sister, I love my brother, this, that. How far can you extend it? If you can only have very deep love for a few people on the material platform. So, but if we love Krishna, then we can actually love every living being, because we've found the focus by which our love can be spread to every other living being. The example is given in the Bhagavatam. Yathaturor mulanishechenena tripyanti tat skandha pujopashaka pranopaharat chayatendriyanam tataiva sarvarhanam achyuteja. Does anyone know the translation of this verse? Anyone? If we water the root of the tree, then automatically the leaves, branches, twigs, fruits, everything gets nourishment. And then another example is given in the same verse, that if we feed the stomach, then automatically the whole body gets nourished. So we have to know, in the same way, just like by watering the root of the tree, the whole tree gets nourished. If we say, I love the leaves, branches, fruits, twigs of the tree, therefore I'll put water on each of them individually, it'll be a very arduous task and a useless task, because they won't be benefited. But if we find the root of the tree and put the water there, then automatically the whole tree gets nourished. Similarly, if we think, why should I give the stomach special treatment? I'll put some food in my ear, and some food in my head, and some food on my arm, then it's stupid. That's why you're laughing, because it's stupid. We have to give food to the stomach, and then automatically the whole body gets nourished. So in the same way, we have to know how to love in such a way that we can love all living beings. That is to love Krishna, who is the center of all existence. The difference between love of the Lord and karma in this material world. Is that the question? Who asked this question? It's not right. What is the difference between what is bhakti and what is karma? Well, there's a lot of difference. There are so many differences. Have you read this Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is? You've read it. Karma means activity in this material world, and bhakti means activity for the pleasure of Krishna. So karma is generally performed with expectation of enjoying the fruit, but even if it's performed without just out as a matter of duty, it's still not equivalent to bhakti, in which the desire to satisfy Krishna is the actual motive. In karma in this material world, there's no desire to satisfy Krishna. Could you please explain how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives love of Krishna, whether you are qualified or not qualified? No, I cannot explain. That is That is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's beyond explanation. That is simply His mercy. Why should you should think naturally here's a very nice, pious person, religious, clean, sattvic, and here's someone who's slovenly, dirty, in the mode of ignorance. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will give love of Krishna equally to both. Who can explain? It is simply His causeless mercy. But He doesn't give to those who are envious of Vaishnavas. Material qualification or disqualification is not considered. But who is envious of Vaishnavas, they cannot get love of Krishna. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed this. Even His own mother, Shachi Mata, who is Mother Yashoda. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was visibly giving love of Krishna to everyone, they were saying, will you give to Shachi Mata also? He said, no. If she's your mother, you won't give love of Krishna to her? No. Then why not? How is this? How can we understand? You're giving love of Krishna to everyone, not to your mother? Why not? Because she has made an offense to Advaita Acharya. That actually not an offense, but just to show how serious is this offensive mentality. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave love of Krishna to everyone, but not to one who offends Vaishnava. So anyway, Mother Shachi, she got free of the offense, so supposed offense, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave her love of Krishna. Then, anything else, or we're finished?
You said there are 4 special features of Krishna. You explained 3 features. What one?
No, 2 of them I combined. Leela Madhuri and Prem Madhuri. They're all very much interlinked. Explain means I spoke about it. How can you explain? Who can explain? It's not actually something to be understood with the intelligence. We can discuss it, and by hearing about it, we can become attracted to that and desire to attain that. But it's not something... You see, just like we have Bhakti Shastri exams. And we can write down, what are the symptoms of love of God? Hare Krishna. We lost something. Hare Krishna. So we can write down, what are the 9 symptoms of one who's in bhav. We can write it down. But experiencing it is something different to the intellectual analysis of it. So it's good to hear about it and know about it, but ultimately it's something to be experienced, which comes from the surrendered, humble serving mood, that one can actually enter into love of Krishna. Our acharyas have analyzed Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, an analysis of what is bhakti from the beginning stages up to the most advanced stages. So that is there. But ultimately bhakti is something to be performed and therefore thereby experienced. So that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's great mercy. He's given us this process that right from the beginning, by chanting and dancing, we can begin to experience Hare Krishna. We can begin to experience, or we can enter into the very same activities which the topmost devotees are doing. In the very beginning, we're asked to chant Hare Krishna and dance, or invited to. And then when we come to the topmost level of bhakti, what should we do? Chant Hare Krishna and dance. There's a difference in consciousness in the beginning stage and topmost stage. But from the very beginning, we enter into the very activities of the spiritual world. The most wonderful activities that Krishna himself comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to chant and dance. Krishna himself wants to chant and dance. Although I didn't hear him chanting Suswagatam Jagannath. He chants Hare Krishna. Anyway, maybe the mood in that, I'm not saying the mood, but there may be some mistake in it also. That's why it's better to stick with what our acharyas have given. Just like we'll find in Chaitanya Charitamrita. One poet came from Bengal and he composed some drama about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And everyone thought it was very nice, but Sri Damodar pointed out there's some mistake. The composition is not perfect. So it's better to stick with those compositions which are given by our acharyas. Because what is pleasing to Krishna, it's actually a very subtle science to understand. Who can understand what is pleasing to Krishna? Mother Yashoda displeased Krishna and therefore pleased him. Who can understand this? Why did Lord Ramachandra choose monkeys for his service? Well, choose monkeys for his service, it appeared to be fortuitous, didn't it? That it almost by chance. But actually he's showing that he doesn't really choose for service, but he accepts if we choose to serve him. Why did they get engaged in service? Because they were prepared to serve. He doesn't have a job interview. That you come with your biodata for an appointment. What is your work experience? This, that, no. What is your skills? What are your hobbies? What do you know? General knowledge. What was on TV last night? No such thing. Are you prepared to serve? That's the only qualification. So he accepted because they were prepared to serve. Why monkeys? Even there's that little squirrel. The squirrel, at least the monkeys could do something. The squirrel couldn't do anything. But Lord Ramachandra accepted, yes. Because they want to serve. And why in the form of monkey? Just to show that you may be a Rishi Putra, like Ravana. But if you're against the sense of bhakti, then you're rejected. But if you're a condemned species, then you're accepted, if you have the tendency to serve. There's a very interesting thing. Who was there in Vrindavan in Kartik last year for Prabhupada's disappearance ceremony? So, Bhakti Charu Maharaj introduced Ravindra Sarup Prabhu. And he introduced him saying that, you see, he's a PhD in comparative religions from Temple University in Philadelphia, like this. And then Dhananjay Prabhu, of course, he was saying, actually, Prabhupada sometimes used to introduce, you see, this is my disciple, he's got a university degree. He didn't introduce many of his disciples like that because most of them didn't have university degrees. Most of us were college dropouts. I wasn't a college dropout because I didn't get as far as the college. I didn't go to college, so I couldn't drop out of it. I dropped out before I dropped in. By Prabhupada's grace, I dropped into the Hare Krishna movement before I could drop into university. So, anyway, Prabhupada sometimes used to introduce. You see, he's a university degree holder. Like that. So suddenly Bhakti Charu Maharaj, he was in that same mood, he was introducing Ravindra Sarup Prabhu. But then, Dhananjay Prabhu, who's another of Prabhupada's old disciples, he got up next after Ravindra Sarup Prabhu gave his speech and introduced himself and said, I don't have any university degree. He said that Prabhupada didn't care whether you had a university degree or not, he just wanted to see if you wanted to serve. So you could say the same thing, that why did Prabhupada accept, all these monkeys for his service? You'll find, you see, someone was on the street, not someone was on the street, all on the street. And hippies, and free sex, and taking drugs, and so many things. Why did he accept? Because they wanted to serve. Prabhupada was preaching in India. At that time, no one was coming forward for service. He went to the West. Who are these people? They're just completely uncultured. But Prabhupada had full faith in the holy names. That even the most uncultured, if they have a slight tendency to chant the holy names and serve, they can become purified. And he proved that by making lower than monkeys into Vaishnavas and Gurus. Because they had a tendency to serve. Sometimes Prabhupada brought that out. The tendency to serve. As an Acharya, he always encouraged the tendency to serve. One drunken man came in with 2 toilet rolls and put them down. Prabhupada said, he has begun his devotional service. He didn't know what he was doing. He's drunken, bring some toilet rolls. Who wants, Vaishnavas don't use toilet rolls. But he brought and gave something from his estimation. Drunk, he didn't know what he has begun his devotional service. He saw it. He didn't think, what is this drunken guy making a disturbance? It's an aparad. Throw him out. He has begun his devotional service. So, Lord Ramachandra accepted the monkeys because they had a tendency to serve. How do we balance our karma and bhakti yoga? Give 50% to Krishna. Actually, all belongs to Krishna. So instead of stealing 80% or 90%, if you only steal 50%, that is better. That way you... Hare Krishna. Who pulled the mic? Someone pulled the plug out? Hare Krishna. Who wants to be a millionaire? Anyone? Yeah, you put your hand up. I don't know. I'd like to be a millionaire. If anyone has $1 million, please give it to me immediately. Why not? Why don't you all become millionaires? Give it all to Krishna. Or at least 50%. Recently, a devotee in Russia published a paper giving a formula that how by giving 50% of your income you can become rich. That doesn't make sense. If you give it away, 50% of your income to Krishna, I'm talking about, not to the Red Cross Society, something like that. So what happens? He started a business. And from the beginning, he said that whatever profit comes, I'll give 50% to ISKCON. Profit. Not that, after I've invested capital, reinvestment, and bought a new TV and a new car, and then the 3 rubles which are left, I'll give 1.5. Not like that. Whatever comes, profit. Not gross, but profit. I'll give to Krishna. And his business flourished so much that his father, who is a complete karmi, started doing the same thing. And then his father started giving 70%. If you have faith, people don't have faith. Ananyas chintayanto mam yejana paryapasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamiham. If we have faith, Krishna will make us a conduit by which crores of rupees flow through. And we never think 1 paisa is mine. Whatever comes, give to Krishna, give to Krishna, give to Krishna. If you have faith, you can do it. Everyone, you should all become bigger than Wiprowala. What's that guy's name? Premji. You should get actual prem. Become bigger than him. Become so many things. All the money in the world has been stolen by all these rascals who are thinking that it belongs to me. So don't do karma, do bhakti. If you do, Prabhupada wrote in Bhagavad Gita purport that there are many devotees who work in a factory or other institution and they give their money to Krishna. They are as good as any sannyasi. So don't balance karma with bhakti, don't do karma, only do bhakti. Then, what else?
See, unless we know a person, we can't know a person. And we know his qualities and leelas. And also it's very difficult to understand Krishna. Is it okay to just do a devotional service to Krishna even if you don't mind knowing him fully?
No, we can't understand Krishna fully. We can't understand anyone or anything fully.
My question, how to love a person?
But when we say no, that means no to a certain extent. We can know about his names, forms, qualities, pastimes, which are naturally attractive. We can become attracted to them. We can't know fully and then we can't love fully either. Fully means our whole being can be surcharged with love, but there's always room for more. So yes, we should know Krishna. We should hear about Krishna, about his names, qualities, forms, pastimes, how he creates, maintains, destroys this material world. That's part of our devotional service. Devotional service doesn't mean, certainly it means cleaning the floor and chanting Hare Krishna, all these things, but it also means it's essential to hear about Krishna from devotees. Our devotional service cannot be complete without that. We have to hear about Krishna.
Can you just do a devotional service to your Guru and then Krishna will get a love?
Just do devotional service to your Guru. But the Guru teaches us to do devotional service to Krishna. Guru is to be served, but he doesn't try to take the position of the supreme worshipable person. Krishna is to be served, but the Guru teaches that you are serving me, I am passing it on to Krishna. Krishna is the supreme person who is to be served. I am being served as his representative. So it's not that we only do Guru Bhakti and think that in and of itself is equivalent to Krishna Bhakti. Guru must teach us to serve Krishna. Otherwise he's not a Guru, he's a rascal. So we shouldn't think that we'll simply serve Guru and not Krishna. Because Guru, his very function of being a Guru is that he teaches us to serve Krishna. If he doesn't teach that, then he's not a Guru.
My question is based on Guru's instruction, just for whatever he says. Showing Krishna, how do you understand? Krishna reveals.
But the Guru, you're saying, he teaches us to serve, but the Guru means Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurin Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Guru doesn't just tell us serve, he gives us knowledge also by we understand why we're doing what we're doing. Otherwise, if he just tells, okay, sweep the floor, how long will you go on without understanding why you're doing what you're doing? Guru means who gives knowledge, transcendental knowledge. Divya Jnanam Yatho Datyat. That is the first principle of initiation, is that the Guru gives transcendental knowledge of Krishna. So it's, yes, we should serve, but we should hear also. You have to hear from Guru. Not that Guru, you simply put a picture and that's all, and you worship. You have to hear. Hearing from Guru. Krishna Dikshadi Shikshanam. We have to take, what are the principles of devotional service? That Ado Gurvashaya. Krishna Dikshanu Shikshanam. We take shelter of a Guru, we take initiation, and we take instruction. We have to take instruction. Then, Vishrambhena Guru Seva. Serving Guru, but that's not independent of hearing from him. That's also required. Should we try to understand Krishna before loving him? It all develops simultaneously. It's not, you see, it's not that this funny idea that in the modern life that all of a sudden you fall in love. It's not that you just suddenly, you're just walking down the street and then you see one nice young lady and all of a sudden, actually what happens when they say falling in love, Cupid hits you with the arrows. And then, like that. But it's a gradual. Sadhakana yam prena. What is that verse? What's that last line? Sadhakana yam prena. What's the last line? Pradobhavi bhavet kramaha. Kramaha means step by step. Development of Krishna prema is step by step. It's not that all of a sudden you're just doing your service and all of a sudden, boom. But there's ado shraddha, tataha sadhu sangha, ataha bhajana kriyaha, tato nartha, like that. So kramaha, step by step. One goes through various stages in which the final stage is called prema. But just like, I'll give an example, according to Ayurveda, semen is present throughout the whole body in very fine form. And that becomes more concentrated in the blood, and then it forms within the genital. So like that, although prema it's a specific stage, at the same time, in a more fine form, maybe not such a clearly seen form, it's present at all stages of bhakti. Bhajana, why should we take up bhajan? Why should we take up activities of Krishna consciousness unless there's a beginning? Bhajan means commitment. Why should we surrender to a guru? Why should we follow rules and regulations? There's a commitment to Krishna. We may not have a very clear idea of who Krishna is, or what he is, or why we should serve. But there's enough understanding that we commit ourselves. So definitely the beginning of love is there. Prabhupada gave an example, just like in traditional Hindu system. The young girl, they're married in childhood. Then she goes to serve the husband. Just by serving, then the love arises. Now, in the beginning there may not be love, just as a duty. But by serving, and she's receiving training at the same time, how to serve. And even before she goes, she's trained, you have to go and serve him nicely like this because he's your husband. So knowledge is there. And then by going, in the beginning, it's understood. She may not have seen him before, but she understands, I'm going to serve my husband. This is a commitment. This is something, I'm in this for life. So they're very serious from the beginning. And then naturally as they go on serving, then affection between the husband and wife will develop. So in the beginning it may not be very pronounced, but it automatically develops by advancement. So we'll finish now. It's getting a little